Hi, and welcome to another interview with key events industry personnel. And today I'm delighted to be with Ross Ashton, who is the creative director of the projection studio. Hi, Ross.
Hi, Elliot. How are you doing?
How are you doing? I'm very well. How are you doing today?
No, good. Thank you.
Good. So obviously you are in projection, which is obviously the giveaway from the backdrop there. Do you want to start by just telling us a little bit about your background and the company background?
Okay. So for about the last 25 years, I've been creating large-scale projection events. I actually started work on these. I lived in France for 4 years, and this kind of outdoor projection sound light show is a French invention from the 1950s. And they are the masters of it. And the company that I was working for had created a whole series of projection systems for people like Jean-Michel Jarre. It's quite an exciting time to be in the business there. And of course, every village and chateau in France has its Sonnet Lumière during the summer. It's a really big thing. So I learned a whole lot there about how to stage these kind of events and how to use architecture as a projection surface. And the idea of projection mapping we kind of think is new because of video projection mapping, but the idea of taking the architecture and redecorating it with projection predates video. We were doing it with slide projectors, and that dates from probably the 80s. And we were a very lonely technician at the time, but I was working with some of the guys who kind of invented that process. 25 years ago, came back to the UK and set up a company, and then realized that you've got these lovely systems, but no one knows what they can do, and therefore kind of almost out of self-preservation and based on the fact that I studied photography, I started to create the content for them as well. And 25 years later, here we are. We've been doing this as a speciality all that time, and it's been great. It's a great thing to work in, and it's really interesting now the way that it's becoming more used because it's easier to use. You can download stuff off the internet now, which will do a certain level of mapping. So that's been a great step forward, I think, to bring this out to more people.
I guess in the tech industry, things change so quickly. Literally every day. So over 25 years, things must have changed. I would think quite a lot. How do you keep up with that, Ross?
Well, you read, you meet people. Obviously, we work on a lot of events where you've got all kinds of different people working, and you talk to people like you, go to trade shows, the kind of things that you do. But my bottom line on all this, I was saying this to somebody else the other day. The technical equipment, complicated as it is, or whatever it can do for you, that's not the show. The show is the idea, the impact, what the general public go home with as a memory. That's the show. So and I've seen shows, and I'm sure you have as well, which have been done with incredibly simple installations and yet are moving. And you go, wow, that was something that was really fantastic. And of course, we've all seen the mega show where, ho-hum, not really that interested. It was okay because the performance wasn't good or whatever. So, for me, the content, the message is king, not the technology.
And you obviously do know what you're doing because you've won lots of awards, haven't you? So I was reading on your website. You were the AV Professional of the Year in 2019.
And that was a huge surprise. They just gave it the longevity. I don't know. I've been around such a long time, but anyway, it was very very thrilling actually, because it is quite difficult to win that award, and so it was a really nice thing. I was quite moved by that. It would give it to me.
And you've also worked with the University of Oxford, is that right?
Yeah, a lot of our work over the last few years has been working on academic subjects. What we found is that universities, individual academics are really keen to talk to the public about what they do. It's kind of something that they feel that they should be doing as part of their service, part of what they do as a job is to get the message out. They're not sitting in an ivory tower. That what they're looking at and working on has an impact on
Sure.
individual or is of interest to the general public, and they find it quite difficult because if you've got some esoteric, strange piece of research that you're doing, a lot of people will not engage with that. They won't think that it's of interest to them. So as an example, the work that we did with Oxford was about Victorian stress and disease. Okay, doesn't sound very exciting, but actually it's great fun because when you speak to the researchers, you find out that the Victorian writers and medics were writing about stress and disease of modern life in exactly the same way that you do. There are whole pages of text about how stressful it is to receive a telegram, for example. So telegrams are arriving all hours of the day and night. I can't get 5 minutes with my family because the telegram boy is coming to the door and knocking, and information too fast for the truth was a fantastic sentence. Take telegram out, put social media in. You could these paragraphs of text, you could read them now and they would be, we would go, but that's our life, that's how we feel. Sure. So they felt, because sorry to bang on about this one thing, but the changes that the Victorians felt were totally comparable with now. The introduction of the railway, suddenly your horizon wasn't the next town, maybe it was now Scotland, Paris. People started to accelerate, life started to move quicker. So we create then, you can edit this down, but then we come in and we go, okay, well, we can make a 5-minute sound and light show about that to show the speed of everything moving and people, saying this kind of stuff. 2,000 people come and 2,000 people talk to the academics on the evening of the show. So that's 2,000 people who've come through the door. They've seen the show and gone, wow, this is fantastic. I need to know more about this. Well, you can just step in here and meet the people who did the research. So they were delighted, of course. And, this kind of two-way communication between...
That's a great idea, yeah.
It works really, really well.
Would a 5-minute show really be kind of average length of time to get that sort of thing across?
Well, there is no average, really.
Really?
I mean, 5 minutes is enough, especially on a winter's night.
Yeah.
It's potentially raining, you've got kids with you. Now, people do enjoy the work. I mean, people don't have to go and speak to an academic. They can enjoy it for its own right, because we do make these things fun and interesting, moving. At least, that's the. And
I guess being outdoors at the moment is really, the key, one of the key selling points really for you guys, because obviously I think even as the events industry slowly gets back to some kind of normal, certainly this year outdoor events will be certainly prominent.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. Now we obviously, like everybody, we lost a huge amount of work. One of our major pieces of work each year is working in Edinburgh. We've been doing that, working in Edinburgh for the last 15 festivals. Wow. And of course, it completely went away this year. And there's still the potential, having Glastonbury having been cancelled, that they will cancel the Edinburgh Festival this year, which is a disaster. I mean, obviously for me personally, but for Edinburgh, it's worth billions to the economy over the. But we've been relatively lucky in that we do work mostly outdoors, and some of our Christmas shows did kind of happen. So, we have managed to keep going.
Yeah. Obviously, the pandemic's really hit the events industry hard, as you mentioned. Sounds like you're keeping busy in some way, but how's it affected the business?
Oh, well, we're doing about less than a quarter what we would normally do.
Yeah.
We're having a lot of conversations about people who want to reschedule things which would have happened this year for next year, but of course you still can't make the work back because they all want them at the same time of year that they would have done them last year. So basically you've just lost the show, but at least they are looking to go, and people are hopeful about, certainly in the outdoor events industry. Theatres, I mean, I hope, really hope that this is going to get sorted out in the next 3 to 6 months, and we can get back to doing concerts and theatre and back to normal.
Yeah,
within limits.
Obviously, you mentioned one or two of the organisations you've worked with. You also told me a little bit earlier that you did some work for the rugby league final.
Yeah, again, so very lucky. A colleague of mine does a lot of work, activations and promotions for sports events, and he took the idea to the the rugby league, for the rugby league final that was held in Hull late last year, that they would do some kind of media spectacular which should be shown on television and would replace kind of the idea of the fans being in the stadium. So we were really lucky to be involved with that. It looked, I was really pleased with it. I mean, it's a shame you can't keep the fans out and turn it into a no, I'm joking. But it was a nice thing to do. Obviously you couldn't do it on a normal match day with the fans in, but it was a great thing. We turned one of the seating blocks, we covered it in screen material, turned that into a 3D, not 3D, turned it into a projection surface, and did projection mapping to make it look as though it was, instead of being raked, that it looked like it was vertical, and lights, lasers, fireworks, flame projectors, and it was really well received. There were journalists there, and we got some nice comments.
Good. Hopefully some good PR out of it. I do remember seeing it, and it was amazing. And I think it just shows the strength of our industry, that even with the limitations that we've had, the organisations have come to people like yourselves, and you've managed to create such an amazing alternative, albeit not exactly what they wanted, but a lot of companies within AV and tech have really adapted to the situation so well.
Yeah, and I've seen some really interesting things. We went to a virtual theatre night, and I think this is kind of for me, I had a kind of light bulb moment. I thought this is really what's so great about this. So you sign up, you go to the theatre on your laptop. You pay £10 and you get a ticket, and there's a live performance. It was an improvised comedy show. And what we did, we invited a load of people. We all got on Zoom beforehand. We all had drinks beforehand and a chat on Zoom. Went to see the show, and then came back afterwards and had drinks again. And it was a great evening. And I do think that there's a kind of, they've discovered maybe they were doing this anyway, but I've never seen it. If you can't get to see your favorite pop star in London, why wouldn't you now say, okay, I'll pay a lesser fee, but I can be in the crowd, on camera, there's a camera watching the show, but it's live. And it is, I think it is the live element of it that makes it, I wouldn't have paid that money to watch that show on a DVD.
No.
But because it's live and that it's actually happening right in front of you, it works.
Yeah.
As a kind of live experience. And you get that, I don't know what it is, that intangible feeling that that what you're watching isn't a recording. It's not edited as slickly as it might be.
Yeah.
And I do think that could work into the future as a way of allowing people to see. Another example, which I think is almost better than that, and sorry to kind of step into religion, but we've spoken to, as you see, we do quite a lot of work in cathedrals.
Yes.
And through the pandemic, they've now started to do church services, prayer meetings on Zoom.
Right.
And both of the churches that we've spoken to have no intention of ever stopping that now, because they've reached people that they've never reached before. Sorry.
As you say, it's reaching so many more people. It's actually, a great way of extending the audience.
If you can't get out of your house, how do you go to church? How do you go to the theatre? How do you go to a pop concert? There's loads of people who can't get out. So, but in general, they can't get out. So let's give them.
You've kind of answered my kind of next and final question, was about how the future looks in the industry, and obviously from your angle. And it sounds like it could be here to stay in some form. The online kind of events, but do you see the industry sort of reverting back mainly to live events?
I hope so, because I do think there isn't anything to replace to being in the place, seeing the thing that you want to see actually live. My only thought is, I think everybody's learned a lot. I mean, you must have done the same thing. The number of times you've dragged yourself across the country to go to a meeting. Where now, again, this can only be good for the environment. It can only be good for all of our, timekeeping, and that we now go, okay, no, it's fine to do this like this.
Yes, absolutely.
We don't have to spend all that time traveling around and for something that could have been done on the phone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Ross, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Do you want to give your company a little bit of a plug? Obviously, your website's on there. How can they get hold of you, and when?
Okay, well, so I'm actively looking for partners at the moment. If there's any stately homes or businesses out there that are interested in the kind of spectacular light show that the French do, where they take a stately home or a place and they create a show around the architecture, we're kind of on the lookout for somebody to work with on that.
Okay.
If there's anybody out there who's interested, then they can contact me.
You have a stately home?
There's more around than you'd think. They keep. They're not all the size of Buckingham Palace, but there's lots and lots of places of heritage.
Oh, absolutely. In our beautiful country. Lovely. Well, Ross, it's been, as I say, a pleasure to meet you, understand a little bit more about your business, and get your take on the industry. And we wish you well, wish you luck finding those people. And thank you very much for being with us today.
It's been fantastic. Thank you very much for inviting me.